Howdy there, welcome back to the channel. My name's Evan, or EJ, you can call me either one, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Marvel's newest Disney Plus series, Secret Invasion. But before I do that, some of you who are returning viewers might be wondering why I haven't uploaded in nearly 2 months, and I'm just going to give a quick, rundown of where I've been, but if you don't really care about that and you just want to see my review of the show, go to this timestamp in the video. Okay. So, for the first few weeks of me missing my uploads, it was because I was having issues with my old phone, which is what I've been using to record the entire time I've been doing YouTube videos. I was constantly running out of storage, and no matter how much stuff I deleted, I couldn't get enough to record the videos, because I usually record pretty long videos. And I would, even if I managed to get it recorded while I was editing it, it would get halfway through exporting into my gallery, and then it would just stop because I ran out of storage again. So I just got sick of fooling with it, and I said, okay, I'm getting a new phone in a few weeks anyway because the charging port on my old one was broken. I'll just put my videos off until then to start recording again, so I won't have any of these issues. I'll have a whole bunch more storage, all of that, everything. So that few weeks passed, and I got my new phone, and then a few more weeks passed, and I still hadn't uploaded. And so the reason for that is, one, I've been trying to get this one specific video out that I've been working on for a while, but I'm kind of having trouble figuring out what the exact point of it should be. I know I'm going to be talking about a specific franchise that I wanted to draw some attention to, but I was having trouble figuring out what the point of the video should be besides just, remember this thing? That was weird, because that would just be pointless. So that's one reason why I hadn't uploaded in nearly 2 months. But the other reason is, I'm sure everybody who is, on social media and is kind of following anything to do with movies at all is aware of the writers and actors strike going on. And it's kind of put content creators in a weird space where mainly ones that are considered influencers. I'm not an influencer, or at least I don't consider myself one, because one, I've only got 22 subscribers, so I don't really think I'm influencing anybody, so it doesn't really apply to me. But I was kind of iffy on whether or not I should be uploading about movies still, just because I want to show that I do in fact support the writers and actors on this one, because what they're asking for is not at all a lot. They're really just asking to be paid a livable wage, because right now they're getting paid squat, and they just kind of have to sit and take it from these insanely rich execs who wouldn't really have anything they have without the writers and actors. They would be pretty much nothing without them. So basically, part of the reason why I hadn't uploaded is because I didn't want to... Okay. It's just mainly just because I feel it would be disingenuous to be just sitting here and being like, hey guys, I love movies. I love talking about movies. But also just directly going against the people that make these movies that I love possible, the writers and the actors who are not getting paid. I just feel like it would be wrong. So that's part of the reason why I hadn't uploaded. But since then, I've done a bit of, digging, looking around for stuff, and from what I can gather, is making reviews for movies and shows from struck companies is okay as long as it's not considered promotion or paid promotion. And believe me, I'm not getting paid to do these. And even if someone were to offer me money to do a review positively, I wouldn't take it, because that defeats the entire purpose of a movie review. I'm not going to back down on my opinion of something just to make some quick money. I feel like that's really just kind of scummy, to be honest. In my findings, I found that reviews of movies and shows are okay from struck companies as long as it's not paid promotion, because then it's considered a review or a critique. So from everything I've gathered, I'm in the clear to make videos like this. And if I missed something or got it wrong, well then, screw it, I tried. I don't know, man. I also just want to make it very clear that I am in no way promoting this show. The only reason I'm making this video is because I like to talk about movies and shows from just that I'm interested in or was excited for. But I don't have a ton of people like in my circle that really care about this stuff like I do. So I just kind of like to make these videos to get my thoughts out and like see if there's people out there that think similar to me, or maybe just have a discussion about why we disagree on things or stuff like that. That's the point of these videos, not to promote the movies or shows. I'm not getting paid to do this. Just want to make that abundantly clear. But now with all that out of the way, we can finally get into the review. Now, just to let you know how this is going to go, I'm going to just basically cover the main talking points that I came away with from each episode, going like from 1 to 6, and just kind of going along like that. But first, I would just want to talk about what my expectations for the show were, because I believe when this show got confirmed, which I think was like at the end of 2020 or something like that, I was like kind of excited for it, because I was like, oh, we're getting a MCU project where Samuel L. Jackson is the lead, where Nick Fury's the main character. And that sounds kind of cool. And it's based off a storyline from the comics where it's just kind of a lot of paranoia, where it's like anyone here could be a Skrull. Like, they could just be like not actually themselves, just an alien. Just kind of imagine, at least for the comic thing, it kind of like John Carpenter's The Thing, but set in the Marvel universe. It's kind of that sort of thing, or like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So when they announced that they were making a show about that, where Nick Fury's the lead character, and we were getting Ben Mendelsohn's character back, and Emilia Clarke was joining the show, Kobe Smulders was going to be in it, I was reasonably excited for it. And, you know, that kind of remained that way. I kind of forgot about it for a while, to be honest with you, because I don't think we got much in terms of updates. I remember a few set videos coming out when they were filming it, but I just remember seeing Samuel L. Jackson on the street, so it wasn't anything particularly exciting. So for a while, my excitement did just kind of start to stagnate, and I kind of just forgot about it until last year at D23, which I believe was it in September? I think it was in September. Now, that whole D23 thing was pretty disappointing, because everyone was expecting them to like drop some serious reveals. Like, I saw everyone expecting the Fantastic Four cast to get announced and stuff like that. And I probably should have tamed my own expectations for that, but I kind of got swept up in everyone else's excitement. So that was disappointing. But the one thing, or one of the few things, I came out of that whole D23 thing with that I was actually really excited for was Secret Invasion, because they released the trailer, and I thought it looked great. Like, I thought it looked like probably one of the best things they would be doing in years, because, let's see, this was late 2022, so we'd been getting some not so great stuff from Marvel. This was the year of Thor: Love and Thunder and Moon Knight, which ultimately fell flat, but it started strong. Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, which had its moments and I think ultimately was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping for. So, you know, after getting I thought the Marvel stuff was starting to get a little bit stale. They dropped this trailer and the trailer for Werewolf by Night, and I thought both of them looked really cool, because this specifically looked like it was very much in the vein of something like Captain America: The Winter Soldier or Civil War, which are two of my favorite MCU movies. Specifically, Civil War is my favorite. Like, that's my favorite thing the MCU has done. So when I saw that I was getting a Nick Fury-led show with a vibe similar to that, I was over the moon, because I thought it looked so cool. And then as time passed, a couple more trailers got released, and we got a few posters. But ultimately, I felt that the marketing for it wasn't really all that. Like, I feel like they could have done more to get people excited for the show, but they just kind of didn't. That probably should have been the first sign that they weren't confident in this, but I don't know, man. But then a little over a month ago, the first episode released, and I started watching the show. And I guess I'm just going to start, get into my mini review of episode 1. Here we go. Okay, so the first episode starts off with a scene between Everett K. Ross and this guy that we've never seen before, whose name I can't remember. But he's basically explaining to Ross how Skrulls have infiltrated the government and they're here on Earth, and something terrible's coming. And Ross is like, yeah, right, dude, I can't take this to the government without a shred of evidence. And then I can't remember exactly how it plays out, because it's been a while since it's been a few weeks since I watched it, but the guy starts to think that Ross is a Skrull, and so they start fighting. Eventually, the guy gets the better of Ross and starts choking him to death, but then I guess somehow Ross manages to get his gun out and shoots the guy. Which then leads into a chase scene where Ross is being chased by someone we've never seen before, or so we're led to believe. And it's a cool chase scene. It's shot really well. It was just a cool action scene. And it ends with Ross jumping. Well, he tries to jump from one building to the top of another, but he misses horribly and just hits the ground. And then Maria Hill, who he called earlier in the chase, I forgot to mention that, shows up and points the gun at the guy that was chasing Ross and is like, put your hands up. And then it's revealed that the guy chasing Ross was Talos, who, if you don't remember, is the Skrull from Captain Marvel, played by Ben Mendelsohn. And then Ross, who's on the ground bleeding out, turns into a Skrull as he dies. So right off the bat, they're setting up the whole paranoia thing. It's like, oh, who can we really trust? Because we thought that was Ross, but it's not. It was a Skrull. So, like, right off the bat, really good opening scene, to be honest. Really enjoyed it. But then immediately after that is the the opening credits, or the theme song and stuff. And the art that they use for the opening credits is AI generated, and it looks sinfully ugly. It is awful looking. Like, oh, dear Lord, I don't want to talk about this for too long, because the whole AI art debate is just not something I want to get into right now, but it looks really bad. This is going to be a really long video, because I have 3 pages worth of stuff written down. Maybe I shouldn't start talking about whole TV shows. Something else I wanted to talk about real quick is, like, how one of the, like, common complaints thrown at the MCU is just how kind of boring everything is shot. Like, everything kind of just looks really flat and kind of dull. And in my personal opinion anyway, this is one of the few shows that kind of avoided that for a little bit for the first few episodes. I think this is, like, one of the more, like, nicely shot things from the MCU in recent years. But notice I did say the first few episodes. Hold on to that for a while, because it's going to come back later. It is also nice to see Nick Fury and Maria Hill again, because for a long time I felt their kind of relationship is one of the things in the MCU that hasn't really been explored enough. Because I feel like they're both really interesting characters, and neither one of them have really gotten their moment to shine. Mainly Maria Hill. Nick Fury's had some really cool moments, and obviously it's Samuel L. Jackson, so he's gotten a lot more screen time than her over, the course of their run in this universe. But it is nice to see a bit more of them, like with a bit more time to flesh them out. For the first episode, anyway. God, man, this show, Jesus Christ. Next up, I'm going to talk about a person who is probably one of my favorite, well, not even probably, is one of my favorite additions to this show, because she just seemed like she was having a blast every time she was on screen. Olivia Colman, easily one of the best parts of the show. Easily. Because, like, every time she's there, she's just really just chewing up the scenery. Like, every time. She seems like she's one of the few people there that actually wanted to be there. For the whole show, anyway. For the for the first few episodes, everybody was doing good. But, I can't even talk about the tail half of the show yet, because I want to save it for when I actually start talking about the individual episodes, but... God. But yeah, Olivia Colman's great in the show. One other thing that I really, really liked about these first few episodes is that the episodes were long. They had a bit more time to breathe and a bit more time for character development. It really felt like they were the length they needed to be. Once again, just the first few episodes, though. Because, like... I can't talk about it yet, but yeah, like, a complaint I've had with a lot of these Marvel shows is it feels like a lot of times they're just trying to rush through everything, and there's just never enough time for any kind of development or just time to breathe, just time to let the actors act or anything like that. So, mainly because of, I believe it's because of the 6-episode format that Marvel seems to be sticking to for whatever reason. I don't know why they're so dead set on having that be the length of their seasons, because that barely qualifies as a season of television. 6 episodes? It's ridiculous, but, yeah, so it was really nice for these first few episodes to be a bit longer, because that's something I feel these Disney Plus shows really need, is longer episodes, or just more episodes, because they always suffer for their runtime, every time without fail. Next up, what I want to talk about for this first episode is something that happens in it that I think is certainly a choice. It's definitely a choice. So you know how earlier I was talking about how it's nice to finally get some character development or just some time to get to know Maria Hill and Nick Fury, but mainly Maria Hill? You know what they do at the end of this episode? The first episode of the show? They kill her. She dies. And, like, I thought it was going to be like a fake out. It's like, oh no, it was a scroll that looked like Maria Hill. Or, oh, they want us to think she's dead, but she's going to come back in the next few episodes. Nope, she's dead. After a decade of Cobie Smulders being in this franchise with little to no development, we finally get a little bit of something from this character, and they murder her. Bravo, Marvel. Y'all are doing incredible right now. Just really a bang-up job. But that was it for episode 1. Now, my thoughts on it. Aside from killing a character that was finally getting some development for once in this franchise, great first episode. Probably one of my favorite first episodes of the Disney Plus series for Marvel. Which isn't a super high bar. Well, they've had some really good first episodes, but the Disney Plus shows themselves haven't been amazing. But this is a very promising start, is what I thought when I started the show. Oh, poor stupid Evan from 6 weeks ago. You poor child. Now getting into episode 2, the first scene that I wanted to talk about is the scene between Talos and Nick Fury on the train. And this scene is a great example of what I mean when I say just letting the actors act. Because this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the show, just because of how good Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn work off of each other. Like, I really believe the history of these two characters because of Ben Mendelsohn and Samuel L. Jackson. Like, I just love the scene. I think they have great chemistry. I just easily one of the best scenes in the show for me, by far. By the way, sorry if it seems like I'm kind of rushing through some of these topics. I want to try and get through them a little bit quicker because I have a lot of stuff written down and I have a lot to say about the last few episodes. And I don't want this video to be 3 hours long, so that's what that's about if it comes off that way. Sorry about that. We also meet Emilia Clarke's character in this episode, Gaia, who... Wait, was she in the first episode? She might have been in the first episode, but whatever, I'm still just gonna put it here. Gaia is her name. She's Talos' daughter from Captain Marvel. And Emilia Clarke is a solid addition to the show, too. I really like Emilia Clarke as an actress, and I think she does exactly what she needs to do in this show. So, yeah, that's really all my thoughts on that. Now I want to talk about, very quickly, the big bad of this show, Gravik, who's played by Kingsley Ben-Adir. I think he's probably one of the more compelling villains we've gotten from Marvel in the last little bit. Well, we've gotten really good villains recently. I feel like Marvel's really stepped up their game with villains in the last little bit. Like, we got the High Evolutionary in Guardians 3, Namor in Black Panther. We've gotten some really good villains. But Gravik is another one that's really well done. For the most part. I'll get into it later. And I really like how his specific story is, like, well, it's supposed to be one that's very personal to his connection with Fury, but it's not handled the best, which, once again, I'll get into in the later episodes. But for the most part, I do really like Gravik as a villain. Now, in episode 2, we meet up with Rhodey, who, has been a very present character throughout the entire MCU, pretty much. Don Cheadle. And, we learn that in this show, he's kind of a douche. Just out of nowhere. Like, he's done some, like, things in the past where it's like, dog... No. But he's never been just, like, an outright jerk. So, basically what I'm saying is, they're making it very obvious. I'm not gonna say it right now, I'll save it for the episode where the reveal actually happens, but, like, dude, he just starts acting like this out of nowhere. Okay, sure. There's also a scene in this episode where Olivia Colman's character, whose name I think is Sonya, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm going to continue to call her Olivia Colman just in case I'm remembering the name wrong. But she has a scene where she interrogates this Skrull who works for Gravik in this, like, meat locker freezer thing. And I like the scene, but there's one thing in there that I was surprised they showed where she just, like, cuts the dude's finger off. And I was surprised they showed that because it's, like, surprisingly graphic for a Marvel show. And I swear to God, if anyone puts that stupid SpongeBob image where they're screaming for their lives on that tiny roller coaster, I'm going to kill you. I'm not saying it's a gory scene or like, oh my God, that's the goriest thing I've ever seen. I'm just saying for a Marvel show on Disney Plus, I'm surprised they showed the dude's finger just getting snapped off, is all I'm saying. Okay? Speaking of things that are surprisingly violent for the MCU, after the scene where that guy gets interrogated in the meat locker, Gravik and his team come to break him out because obviously, they're working, that guy getting interrogated is working for him, so they're going to rescue him. And they have to fight off these guards that are, guarding the room where the interrogation's happening. And Gravik just picks this one dude up and hangs him on a meat hook, like stabs it through his back like this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. just took me by surprise. I thought it was really cool. For the most part, I think the action in the show is really done pretty much up until episode 6 or so. Everything else besides that, I actually really like the way the action's done in the show. But yeah, that was honestly a really cool scene too. Really well done. I think the action is really well done. I just rewatched the clip and I said I think the action is really done for the most part in this show. Because I am excellent at this. I never make any mistakes. And at the end of episode 2, we get a reveal that apparently this entire time, Fury has been married to a Skrull. We don't really learn much about it in this episode, so that's really all I can say until I get into episode 3, but that's neat, I suppose. And in the beginning of episode 3, we get the scene that's a flashback to 1998. Yeah, 98. Which is, I guess, like around the time Fury and his Skrull wife started seeing each other, whose name is Priscilla, or at least that's her human name. Her Skrull name is Vara, but I'm gonna call her Priscilla because I don't know. But I just want to say that in my opinion, she's the best written character in this show, easily. Because to be entirely fair, most of the writing, it's not great, but she's actually written very well. I like her character a lot, actually. Okay, there's a fly in here and I can't seem to kill it, so if you see it flying around, just ignore it. And in this episode, we also get this good scene between Gravik and Talos where they meet up at this restaurant for a parley, as they put it. And this is another one of my favorite scenes in the show, just because I think it's a nice interaction between the two characters. It was just a well-done scene. But also, it's just nice to see a bit more of Talos, because we haven't gotten a ton of him throughout the MCU. He was in Captain Marvel, but I don't remember much of what he did in that movie. I remember a few quotes here and there, but he wasn't like a standout for me. We got that one post-credit scene from Spider-Man Far From Home, which was 2 minutes long. And now this. So it's nice to actually get a bit more of him, because Ben Mendelsohn's a great actor, so it's just good to see him get more to do. And in that scene between... Oh my god, my hair looks crazy. I need to get a haircut. It's really long now. Yeah, but anyway, in that scene between Gravik and Talos, there's also this bit where Gravik says something that makes Talos really mad. I can't remember what it is, but Talos just picks up like a butter knife and stabs it through Gravik's hand. And after Talos leaves, instead of pulling the knife out, Gravik just like does this and tears it through his hand, because he can heal because he's already become a Super Skrull. He's already injected himself with whatever it was that turns you into a Super Skrull. So he can heal because of Extremis. But once again, I'm not saying this is gory or hyper violent. I'm just saying for the MCU, it usually feels like they're very scared to use any kind of blood or anything like that. So it's nice to see them pushing it a bit more in stuff like this. Because, I don't know, it just makes it feel a bit more grounded or realistic. Because whenever you see people getting stabbed or shot and there's barely any blood, it just kind of becomes hard to believe. So it's nice to see them doing stuff like this again. And a bit later in episode 3, there's a scene where Talos and Fury have broken into this dude's home, who is a Skrull, and he's ordered a nuclear launch on... I can't remember where it was supposed to hit, but basically, it would have started World War III, which is Gravik's whole like grand plan, is get the humans to, just basically start World War III, so the humans kill each other, and the Skrulls have a place to live now, because I just realized I haven't explained what the actual plot of this is one time. So, I guess I should do that here. So in Captain Marvel, Fury promised the Skrulls that he'd help them find a planet, but in the meantime, they should help him, with threats and stuff. Protect our planet, protect Earth. And they're like, that's a fair deal. We'll do that. Now, 30 years later, they still don't have a planet. So Gravik and a bunch of other Skrulls are like, well, screw this. And Gravik's grand plan is to start World War III, so the humans kill each other off, we all die out, and the Skrulls can just inhabit this planet. That's the entire plan, okay? Just to get that out of the way. But basically what I was saying was, before I got sidetracked, was Talos and Fury are at this guy's house, who is a Skrull, who's gotten into a high-ranking position to where he can order a nuclear strike, and he's done that. And they're trying to get a code from him so they can call off the strike, but he's just refusing to give it up. And I just love how fed up Fury is, and he just goes, enough of this bull, and then just shoots him in the leg. And then he threatened to shoot him in the dick. I just think it's really funny. I just like that scene. I thought it was fun. Just rewatch that clip. Threatened to shoots him. Not threatens to shoot him. Threatened to shoots him. This is the only language I speak. How am I so terrible at it? I don't get it. But after that scene, when they realize they're not getting the information they need out of this guy, Talos just shoots him in the head, kills him, and then calls Gaia and is like, hey, can you go down into the basement where you're keeping all these people's bodies and memories and just learn what the code is that we need? And she does that. And also, I have a bit of a complaint about that whole thing. So, in this show, Gravik's whole team of Skrulls are staying at an abandoned nuclear plant because humans can't go there because they will die of radiation poisoning or cancer eventually. And it doesn't affect Skrulls. They're immune to the radioactive stuff, right? But they're keeping all the humans in the basement. So, are all the people that are down there just going to die of cancer eventually? It's just something I noticed that bugged me. It's not really super important. It's just a bit of a, not a plot hole because it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot, but I don't know if it's not a continuity error. It's just a mistake, pretty much. But anyway, because Gaia supplies the information to Talos, she starts to flee the area because if she stays, they will murder her. Excuse me, got a burp. But as she's running away, Gravik catches her and cuts her off. And, he just shoots her. And we're supposed to believe she's dead, because that's where the episode ends. I don't know, it was a scene. So my overall review for this I think I forgot to do one for episode 2. My thoughts on episode 2 were pretty much the same as episode 1, but my overall thoughts on this episode, it's pretty good. It's not as solid as the first 2, in my opinion. It's not bad by any means. It's still good. But in my opinion, this is kind of where the cracks start to show for this show. Start to show for this series. And, I guess we'll see if it gets worse or not. And now, episode 3 starts. Episode 4, my bad. Episode 4 starts, and we get a last time on. And, before it shows Gaia getting shot in the last time on, we see a clip of her, taking something from the basement of the nuclear plant. Wonder what that could be. Surely it's not the Super Skrull stuff. Guess we'll find out. But surprise, surprise, Gaia's alive. Yep, she's a Super Skrull now. So that fake out death was just kind of pointless. I mean, I guess it works within the context of the show, but it just felt kind of weird to kill her at the end of one episode, and then in the very next episode, she just gets right back up like no time has passed. I just thought it felt kind of weird personally, but I figured she wasn't dead because why would you bring Emilia Clarke on just to kill her in the third episode? But it still just felt kind of, I don't know, like it could have been executed better. Also, I forgot to mention at the end of episode 3, we see Priscilla, Fury's wife, making her way into this, can't remember what they're called, but she has this box and it has a gun in it and a phone, and she answers the phone or dials the phone, and we hear Rhodey's voice on the other end of it telling her to meet her at a church. I can't remember in what amount of time or when, but it's very clearly Don Cheadle's voice. And that's where episode 3 ends. So, forgot to mention that. Okay, so after we see Gaia come back to life, we get this moment that's another flashback to 2012. It's in Paris, and it's Fury and Priscilla meeting in this restaurant. And they just kind of read a verse from this poetry book she's reading, and it's another really nice scene, and it's another scene why I think Priscilla is the best written character in this show personally. It's also just really nice to see more of these personal moments with Fury, because we didn't get a whole lot of his personal life before, so it is just good to see this kind of stuff again. Or not again, just for the first time. But after that, we see the scene that follows up on the end of episode 3, where Priscilla and Rhodey meet at this church. And basically, we learn that Fury wants Priscilla to kill Fury, and if she doesn't kill Fury, then Rhodes is going to kill her. And all I can say again about Rhodey is you're laying it on a little thick, don't you, Marvel? Still not gonna say it just yet, because the reveal happens later in this episode, so just hold off a little longer. But dude, he's literally never acted like this. It came out of nowhere. But yeah, it is cool to see Don Cheadle get to do something a bit different though from what he normally does. So that's at least a positive. But still, it's just such a 180 for his character. It came out of nowhere. And in that scene between Priscilla and Rhodey, we see that Nick is listening in on the conversation. Because how did my hat go? We see, I don't know if he bugged her phone or what, but he can hear what they're saying, so he's prepared for when she eventually does try to kill him. So that's something. And then after that, we get this scene between Talos and Gaia. And this is another scene where it's what I'm talking about when I mean just letting the actors act. It's another really good scene where Gaia is just trying to, or Talos is explaining what his like game plan is to get the Skrulls a home. And basically, it's just save the president and hope just through goodwill, and that bargaining chip that the United States government will be able to provide a home, or at least help them look for a home. And Gaia's like, dog, that's not gonna happen. And I just think it's a really good scene, personally. But I don't know. Oh, guys, now it's time for the big reveal. You ready for it? Rhodey's been a Skrull this entire time. You hear that? Nothing. Because everyone saw this coming. Because they made it so blatantly obvious. First of all, just by having Rhodey be included in the show. It's like, Secret Invasion is a story about how anyone you know could be a Skrull. They could have been a Skrull the entire time. And that's like the paranoia of it. It's like, what if my best friend's been a Skrull? What if my mom's been a Skrull? What if one of my coworkers is an alien? That's the entire thing of it. And they included, and all the people that we know that they included in the show are Fury, who obviously isn't a Skrull. He's the main character. They weren't going to do that. They don't have the balls to do that. Maria Hill could have been, but she died first episode. And Rhodey, who is technically a main character of the MCU, but he's not a main character, but he's a character we know. We've gotten to know for over a decade. But he's also kind of been in the background of other people's projects. He hasn't really... It's not like one that'll be as earth-shattering, but it could be one that'll be enough to shake up the internet. Like, whoa, this guy we've known the whole time is a Skrull. But they made it so blatantly obvious throughout the entire show, because Rhodey just starts being a douchebag out of nowhere. And he's the only person we know in the show besides Fury, and obviously Fury's not a Skrull. But also, the reason I'm not a fan of this is because they did it in like the most boring way possible. And it's like, I realize this part is kind of the point, but it also just kind of ruins his character throughout Infinity War and Endgame. I'll explain why it's specifically those two when we get to the last episode, but I just wasn't a fan of the reveal personally. One, because it was blatantly obvious, and two, I just don't think it was handled well. But after the scene where Rhodey is revealed to be a Skrull, we get the scene where him and Nick have a drink together. Like, Nick brings a bottle of bourbon, and they sit and have a drink. And Rhodey, I think it's the scene where he threatens to blackmail Fury with the footage of him killing Hill. I forgot to mention this. The way Hill dies, she gets shot in the gut by Gravik, but Gravik has disguised himself to look like Fury. So, and there's footage of that, so if it gets out, Fury will become a wanted man because it just looks like he's murdering one of his co-workers. So, understandably, that shouldn't get out. But yeah, that bottle of bourbon that Fury brought with him apparently is like a liquid tracking device, and now they can track Rhodey with it. My hair is driving me insane. And I forgot to mention they're in Russia while this is happening. I think, are they in Russia? They might. I'm pretty sure they're in London. I know I got that mixed up. I'm sorry, but their plan, Fury and Talos' plan, is to follow Rhodey because he's in a whole... The president's being escorted through London. And so the Fury and Talos' plan is to kind of hang back but follow them. And while that's happening, Gravik and his team disguise themselves as Russians, and their plan is to kill the president. As if a bunch of Russians who look like the military just randomly assassinate the US president, yeah, that's a pretty surefire way to start World War III. So that's their plan. And Fury and Talos see this, so they go in to where all the action's happening, and they're doing their best to defend the president, who is out cold in a car that is upside down. And Talos is trying to get inside the car by busting the window. While this is happening, everyone's shooting at each other. And at one point, Talos gets shot, like, right here. But he's still breaking the window. But because he's injured, I guess he's having trouble keeping up his appearance as much. So, like, half his face is Skrull, half is Ben Mendelsohn. And by the way, that effect looked really good. That CGI looked really nice. The, like, half Skrull, half Ben Mendelsohn. That looked really good. But one of the soldiers sees this, and they're like, there's an alien trying to get the president. And Fury's like, no, he's with me. And then the soldier's just like, all right, and then continues firing. Which I thought was going to lead to, like, some goodwill being, shoved towards the Skrulls, because it's like, one of them is helping save the president of the United States. But I guess I'll talk more about that once I get to the last episode. But essentially, they get the president out of the car. Fury brings him to the car Talos and him were in, and he's going to drive him out of there. But then he sees that this soldier is helping Talos up because Talos has been shot, and immediately he realizes something's off, and he tells him to let Talos go. Then he shoots him in the face, and it's Gravik, disguised as that soldier. That same soldier that was like, there's an alien. Then he stabs Talos, and he dies. Talos is dead. Which I guess works. Well, okay. I can't talk about it yet until I get to the last episode. I'll save my thoughts for that until the last episode. But Talos is dead. And my overall review for episode 4 is I don't love this one. I think it's fine, but this is really where the show is kind of starting to take a dip for me. There was some cool stuff in it. I like the action sequence at the end where they're trying to save Ritson, who's the president in the MCU. I liked the scene between Talos and Gaia, but overall, it's a very middle-of-the-road episode for me. And now, we're getting into the penultimate episode, the one right before the finale. And this episode starts with Gravik meeting up with some of the other Skrulls that we've been seeing throughout the show, specifically this one guy who, calls him out for not killing Fury when he had the chance on that highway. And because of that, Gravik just murders the guy with his big Groot arm. And once again, they're showing some blood, which I'm glad they're doing, because I would really like for some more adult stuff in the MCU. I know we're getting Deadpool 3, and that's going to be rated R, but I'm really hoping that we could also get an R rating for stuff like Blade or Wolverine when he eventually enters the MCU. And now, remember when I said in the first few episodes that this is one of the MCU things that looks like a real show, it's actually shot pretty well and kind of interesting? Yeah, these last 2 episodes, that's just kind of been gone. I felt like it's shot in just a more general, kind of boring way, like you'd see in most other MCU stuff. And I don't know, it just felt really noticeable to me. If you hear a loud grumbling noise, just ignore it. It's thundering outside. There's not really much I can do about that. Also, remember how I said in the first few episodes that I liked how long they were, that they felt like they were really getting some time to breathe? Yeah, that's just kind of gone by this point too. The episodes went from an hour to half an hour, and it really messes with just how the pacing of the show feels. It royally messes it up. So that's another thing that I felt was really noticeable in these last few episodes. And remember how in the last episode I said Rhodey was threatening to blackmail, or was blackmailing Fury? Rhodey was blackmailing Fury with that footage of Gravik killing Maria Hill. Yeah, he leaked it in the beginning of this episode, so now Fury is a wanted man. Really just playing into make Rhodey very playing into making Rhodey very unlikable. Just through and through. And even though I feel this episode is kind of very poor, at least Olivia Colman is still having fun. She's still, consistently being one of the best parts of the show. She's just really seems like she's having a great time every time she's on screen. Okay, but now, remember at the beginning of this episode when I said Gravik murdered that guy because he... Well, Thunder, sorry, distracted me. Gravik murdered one of the Skrulls that worked for him because he called him out on not killing Fury. Yeah, well, because of that, the other Skrulls do pretty much a mutiny and just attack him and try to kill him. But because he's roided out now on the Super Skrull stuff, he just wipes the floor with all of them. They all die really quickly. It's a cool action scene, though, and it was cool finally getting to see Gravik in his Skrull form and not just looking like Kingsley Ben-Adir. And the prosthetic makeup looked really good too, so that was a cool scene. And now we learned something else about Gravik. That the powers that he got from the Super Skrull stuff, the ones he got are just the ones that he collected himself. They're not the ones he actually really wanted. The ones he got were Groot and Cull Obsidian and some Frost Giant stuff and Extremis, which already makes him pretty powerful. But he wanted something way more. he wants something called the Harvest, which screw it, we don't learn it till next episode, till the end of this episode, but I'm just gonna go ahead. It's pretty much some of the DNA of all of the Avengers. So he would become wildly OP if he got that. And if you're wondering where they got it, the reason they pull for how they got it is every Avenger spilled blood during the Battle for Earth, which was, against Thanos during Endgame. But, yeah, that's what he really wants, is the Harvest, so he can just become insanely powerful. And we get this small scene with a cameo from someone I didn't think we'd ever see again in the MCU. It's that guy from Black Widow that supplied her with a plane, or a helicopter. I don't remember the character's name, but honestly it was kind of neat seeing him again. It makes it feel like I was about to say something really stupid. It just kind of... It's nice to see some things being tied together a little bit more, just with small things like that. Although I don't like this episode, that was nice to see. I got a hair in my face that's bugging me. But yeah, it was cool to see him come back for that one scene. Now, remember earlier when I said I really like how the action is done in this show, for the most part? Yeah, this episode, while I don't like it, probably has my favorite action scene in the show. And it's it's Gaia and Priscilla, Fury's wife. After they have a proper funeral for Talos, they get attacked by a whole group of dudes, and they just wipe the floor with them. They have like a ton of guns, and it was just a really cool action scene that I really liked. So that was cool. And we get this scene with Fury and Sonya, where they go to this graveyard in Finland where Fury has one of his graves planted, to gather the Harvest, which is where he's hiding it. And he says something in this scene that's just a bit weird to me. So Sonya asks why he hasn't called any of his super friends to come help out with this. Like the Avengers. And his reason is he has to do this himself. Because, he kind of started it all. The whole thing is his fault. And he says, none of them can protect the world like I can. And, stuff like that. And I'm just like, I get it. This is a personal thing for you. Feel like I gotta do it yourself. But also, if you fail, World War III will happen, and everyone will die. I feel like that's a good enough reason to get at least one Avenger. Just one. It doesn't even have to be one of the good ones. It just... An Avenger with any superpower could help out here. Or one of your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. friends like Quake or something. I just don't know, man. I don't like this episode. And that pretty much wraps up episode 5. My general thoughts on it, in case you couldn't put it together. I don't like that one. Yeah, this show has just very steadily gone down in quality for me. But will the finale be able to tie things together? I guess we'll see. I'm sure you guys have been able to see by now that I keep notes of my videos with points of it that I want to, topics that I want to talk about, so I don't ramble on for too long or kind of forget about stuff. Normally, for this video, it's been I get 2 or 3 episodes in a page. And that's when the page is full. I don't know how well you can see this. This page is full. And this is just episode 6. And I'm just going to spoil it now. Almost none of this is positive. Strap in, I'm about to complain for a while. Okay, I'm gonna start off with this. It's a small thing, but it is positive, so just to get it out of the way. There's this shot at the beginning where this car just starts rolling down towards these two guards that are guarding a gate, and they're just like yelling at it to stop, and then after a few times of telling it to stop, it just keeps rolling. They just unload on it. And honestly, I feel like that one was shot really well. Like, I thought it was a cool shot. Very minor thing, but it was nice to see some, like, a bit more style to the directing, just a little bit more in this episode, since it was pretty much void for the last three. It was nice to see that stuff again. Okay, now we get a scene where Fury is inside the abandoned radioactive plant, or what? Why can't I remember? Chemical plant? Whatever, you know what I mean, where the Skrulls are hiding. And he has a scene with him and Gravik that, even though I really don't like this episode, and I don't like what the scene eventually turns out to actually be, when I was first watching it, was probably one of my favorite scenes in the show. With the benefit of hindsight, nothing. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Now we get a scene. So, Ritten's in the hospital because of the attack on his, escort in episode 4. And Rhodey and his whole, the Secret Service are obviously guarding his room because there's been an assassination attempt on his life. But Sonya calls Rhodey, and she's like, Fury is on his way to you right now, and he is mad. Like, y'all need to be on guard. And that pretty much gets Rhodey away from the room, because he's like checking check all the floors. Let's move the president somewhere else, and something like that. That gives Sonya the opportunity to kind of get the best of Rhodey. Also, there's a person taking out the Secret Service, with darts from the shadows. We don't know who it is. We don't see who it is. We do in a little bit, but so it's an alright scene. It's fine. It works. But while that hospital scene's happening, the scene between Fury and Gravik is still happening. And Fury gives Gravik the harvest, and he's like, you know what? I don't care. Just take this, screw off to another planet, destroy whatever species, I don't care, just leave Earth. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But Gravik takes the harvest, gives himself powers, and now he's a real Super Skrull. But also, Nick Fury has superpowers now. Or so we thought. Turns out it's Gaia pretending to be Fury. And here's why I don't like that scene. Because for a little bit, I thought it was actually a nice scene where Fury and Gravik were kind of actually talking to each other, and it was supposed to be the climactic moment between the villain and the main character of our story. It was supposed to be the big moment, and it was a good scene. It was very well acted. But actually, nope, it wasn't even actually Fury, it was just Gaia. Fury and Gravik never have any actual encounter in the last episode. There's not a big climactic moment for them. There's no resolution to their beef. Fury is just at the hospital with Sonya, taking out the Secret Service. And Gaia and Gravik are fighting because they have superpowers now.
Big CGI fight coming up!
God, I hate the way that is handled. I really don't like that at all. And while Gravik and Gaia are fighting, there's the thing at the hospital where Fury's there. Sonya's holding Rhodey with a gun to his head, and Nick's like, hey, Rhodey's a Skrull. And Rhodey's like, no, I'm not. Kill Fury. He's a wanted man, and then we can bomb Russia. And it's just like, you couldn't pay me to care about what was happening in the scene, to be honest. It's just not done well. Also, with the whole Gaia and Gravik thing and how everything just kind of comes together, this has been said by multiple people already, but I'm going to say it here again because it's very true. This finale is literally the exact thing that Marvel was making fun of in the finale of She-Hulk. Like, to a T. It is insane. They were like, hey guys, look at this stupid thing. Look how dumb this is. And then, like, 9 months later, hey guys, look at our cool finale to our political espionage thriller show that was supposed to be grounded. We've got two people with the powers of every Avenger fighting at a nuclear power plant. Sure, why not? Why even bother with a show? This is so stupid. I also just have to say, this might be the most cursed frame to come out of any Marvel thing ever. It just looks so wrong. Mainly because it's not even like the CGI is bad, it's just Emilia Clarke is such a tiny person. So to see just this absolutely shredded Dave Bautista arm, but it's also small to fit her body, just come out of... Just be there, looks so bad. It looks goofy. This looks like Looney Tunes level goofy. Actually, you know what it reminds me of? This. Tell me these are not the same image. Go ahead, I'll wait. Also, just gotta say, Gaia is like... Excuse me. Insanely OP now. Like, very, very overpowered. So much so to the point that it's like, what do you even do with this character now? Like, you can nerf her, or she could just never show up again. But she can't just hang around because she is ridiculously powerful. I don't know, man. Some of the decisions in this finale truly baffle me. One of which is just the unceremonious way in which they kill Gravik. You know, the villain who's been, like, the main threat this entire time is pretty much the B-plot of the last episode. It is treated with, like, no respect. He doesn't get his encounter with Fury. He just gets murdered, and there's nothing... Like, he may as well have just been some random goon. I'm genuinely baffled that this got released, to be honest with you. But anyway, at the hospital stuff with Fury and Rhodey and the president and stuff, Fury manages to get out of Sonya's grip, and he gets the gun from her. And Fury quickly just shoots him in the head, and the president sees that Rhodey was in fact a Skrull, so we can prevent World War III from happening, because Gravik's dead. So, whatever. What was next? Oh yeah, and we learn... Well, it's not outright confirmed, but it looks very likely that Rhodey was taken after he got injured in Civil War. Sometime around that area. And since he got taken during Civil War, that kind of brings up what I was talking about earlier. I think I said it, where I said, like, it kind of ruins his character from Infinity War and Endgame. Because... there are a lot of moments in those two movies specifically where it really feels like Rhodey was kind of humanized. And not that he wasn't before, but it just kind of felt like we got a little bit more of him, a few more like personal moments with him, and a lot of very big stuff for his character happened. Not directly to him, but stuff that would change his life. For instance, his best friend dying to save the universe, Tony Stark. If Rhodey's been gone since Civil War, he does not know Tony's dead. He doesn't know Black Widow's dead. And also, it ruins that nice moment that he had with Nebula in Endgame, where she was like, "I wasn't always like this," and he said, "Yeah, neither was I." Where they were talking about how like their prosthetics, like Rhodey wasn't always paralyzed from the waist down, Nebula wasn't always like 90% robotic. That was a very nice moment of two characters like having something in common. And if he's been a Skrull for those two movies, that's just ruined. Which I get is kind of the point of the storyline, but also that doesn't make it good. I don't know, man. I'm beat. I really just got to thinking about it, and there's so much that Rhodey missed out on. Like, obviously, all the Infinity War and Endgame stuff he missed out on, but also he doesn't know that Sam is Captain America now. Oh my god, it's... Imagine how confused he's gonna be when he realizes there's a big stone celestial just sticking out of the ocean. He doesn't even know Tony became a dad. Why would they? I don't. I'm even more mad now. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna be entirely honest with you. I'm getting kind of tired of standing here, so I'm just gonna speed through these next few the best I can. So, the president's message to the United States about the Skrulls, or I guess to the world, basically says Skrulls are outlawed. If you see them, you can kill them. Like all that. Even though one saved his life, Skrulls are just not allowed. Because that makes sense. What else? Oh yeah, the Sonya and Gaia thing. This is one of those stories in the Marvel Universe that to be honest, I doubt we're ever going to see the follow-up of it. Ever. I would be surprised if we do. Oh yeah, a bunch of vigilantes, as Nick put it. Because the president said you can just kind of kill Skrulls, a bunch of people have taken it into their own hands to start killing people that they think are Skrulls, which is an issue because Skrulls are shapeshifters, so this is just going to get regular people killed. They straight up murdered this government official woman. I can't remember exactly what she is, but she wasn't a Skrull. They just murdered her. What else? What else do we got? Oh yeah, the show ends off with Fury and Priscilla talking to each other while Fury's about to go back up on Saber in space. And he's like, I hear there's peace talks with the Kree. Am I supposed to care? I don't even have words. I don't know how I can explain to you how much I don't like this finale. Oh yeah. Normally when they do the Skrull stuff, it's practical makeup, like prosthetic makeup you can see on the actors. But Priscilla turns into like her regular self, her Skrull self at the end of the show, and it's CGI. And it looks off to me. I don't know if it's just a me thing. I haven't seen anyone else bring it up, but like when she tries to talk, her mouth just looks very stiff. And it just looks weird. But yeah, I'm done talking about the show. I hated where it ended up. I loved how it started. I loved the first 2 episodes. But this might be my least favorite Disney Plus show because this is one of the ones I was the most excited for. And it started out so promising. And it ended so terribly. This is like the first time I've come out of a Marvel project feeling angry. Like, I've come out of them feeling disappointed, sad, just... At one point, I felt literally nothing. Quantumania, literally, I had no positive emotions towards that movie. I had no overtly negative ones. I was just like, that exists, I guess. This one genuinely made me mad with how it turned out. Yeah, That's pretty much my thoughts on Secret Invasion. If you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on my post notifications if you don't want to miss any of my future uploads. That's about all I've got for you today. See ya.